Are you sick and tired of triple carding to Alatreon's Eschaton Judgment? Well, I once experienced the same troubles too, and from my journey, I've collected numerous tips that can help you avoid your descent into Alatreon-induced insanity. For those who don't know, Alatreon is amongst the hardest and final few foes within the Iceborne DLC of Monster Hunter World. Despite being added almost 3 years ago, many still, understandably, struggle with it. After all, Alatreon has many complex mechanics, namely checking if you've dealt enough elemental damage to suppress its OKO attack Judgment, and its ability to change elements. Trying to theorycraft skillsets for this can be overwhelming, but with the proper guidance it can be done, without grinding annoying siege quests or to master rank 100. First, let's consider some useful equipment and skills. Within the assigned quest, Alatreon starts in the fire element. In this state, it's extremely weak to ice. With Farcasters, an item that sends you back to camp being blocked, to avoid problems you should stick to a weapon utilizing its immediate weakness. Fortunately, for every single weapon type, the tickets and materials to make the best ice weapon can be obtained from an event quest immediately after beating the main story of Master Rank, The Last White Knight. Although the tempered Frostfang Barioth within can be threatening, beating it should be no problem with the very equipment you've already been using, though perhaps some extra ice resistance wouldn't hurt. To support this weapon and combat Alatreon's mechanics, some select skills tend to be essential for use. Of course, there's the usual all-purpose skills like Vitality, Evade Window, and Evade Distance for additional survivability while on the offensive. Alongside them, good old Critical Eye, with attack boost level 4, with potential use of weakness exploits extra affinity from weak points like head and weakened areas, can raise the base 25% critical chance of Frostfang weapons to peak. Paired with critical boost, these criticals deal exceptional raw damage. However, this damage will only speed up the fight to minimize unplanned knockouts. Judgment, though, calls for some unusual skills. Because Dragon Blight, which seizes your elemental damage, is frequently inflicted by Alatreon, skills like Dragon Resistance can be handy, but with the race against time, I believe they're better fit for offenses and evasive maneuvers. Thus, considering Nullberries can be consumed or a dragon-proof mantle can be equipped to immediately rid of such blights, with the dragon mantle being an especially handy tool, the Coalescence skill is useful in exploiting this process for a temporary boost of raw and elemental damage. More importantly though, there's Ice Attack. But what makes it better than similar elemental boosting skills? Well, while having those can work well for you, the good ones like True Critical Element are locked behind Master Rank levels, and the armors with these tend to have some less favorable abilities. Ice Attack, however, can be acquired by wearing a Frost Charm upgraded with cheap materials from high rank Kushala and the Coral region of the Guiding Lands, topped off with an additional Frost decoration. For ideas on how these skills can be distributed, here's an example of what I use, which includes some additional skills like Agitator. Although it seems risky, as Alatreon uses faster, longer combos when enraged. With good damage, it will be enraged over half the time anyways. Thus, Agitator can be used just as well here to provide extra damage and 20% affinity when topped off with the Raging Bracky Armor's set bonus. Furthermore, Heartbreaker helps with breaking Alatreon's horns. Focus lets you charge attacks quicker, and Speed Eater can make a world of difference for quick, consistent healing. Alatreon itself has a diverse array of constantly changing attacks, and although some may be more difficult to handle, they can be learned with practice. Don't get too comfortable though, as Eschaton Judgment, the move serving as an OKO and element transition, happens every 3 to 7 minutes. Knowing Alatreon's weak points comes in real handy for suppressing him. After weakening the forearms with the Clutch Claw, they become your main target for elemental damage while each judgment threshold is not meant, being not only easy to hit, but also the weakest part to elemental damage. Here you should use fast-moving, elementally focused attacks. For example, Hammer's best option is the boosted 3rd stage charge attack, not only dealing great damage and becoming easier to pull off with the skill Focus, but also leading into a clutch attack capable of landing many elemental hits and creating a weak point. However, once the elemental threshold is met, Alatreon dramatically topples over, providing a great opportunity to focus on its horns. Breaking parts requires raw damage, so only if you've lessened its judgment, or you know what you're doing should you begin focusing on its horns with non-elemental hard-hitting attacks. However, breaking a horn prevents Elytrion from switching elements within its next judgment, meaning if broken during Fire Phase, it prevents an Ice Phage, which aside from being more annoying, also negates Ice damage to force an inevitable LKO. Some more opportunities to damage its horns during long non-thunder attacks is via the Clutch Claw, or by flinch-shotting on its head while Elytrion flies, as when not enraged, this deals damage to the horns by colliding and acts as another way of toppling it. You can also mount it, which is very effective, but be sure to hold the button to hold onto it during the whole time Elytrion tries fighting back. Do note though, that even with an elemental suppression, Judgment can tear a hole through health, making Speed Eater great for recovering throughout it. Both horns can only be broken once, making them only temporary for keeping back Ice-Sciton judgments. For finishing touches, using little things like the Temporal, Evasion or Rocksteady Mantle, a sustainable item supply you refresh on feints, Feline Insurance, or elemental res buffs from food, and Vigor Wasp's Revival or Choral Orchestra from your Palico helper, can help preventing wasting any of the 2 feints you have. Just like shown here though, with the tips I've shared, and perhaps changes of your own, you should eventually defeat Elytrion yourself, and enjoy the thrill of overcoming the unique and diverse strategies it asks for. Perhaps you too will be driven to share your own interesting experiences with the community.